I've heard a joke that right now all the candidates, basically there are two groups of candidates. First group of candidates know how to apply for the position, how to pass the interview, but they don't know how to work. And the second group know how to work, but they kind of completely missing skills for of how to apply for position and how to pass all the interviews.
So, Vladimir, when you think about hiring, what personally are the biggest challenges for you right now?
I think right now the biggest challenge is basically number of applications. This is after last year, last 2 years of layoffs, people really invest in time in applications, and it basically, based on my experience hiring, like last year, last summer, it's kind of really difficult to handle. So just let me give you one example. So we're looking for two data analysts, and the total amount of applications that I get was kind of 1,500 or something like that. So basically, for human or like for recruiter or like for hiring manager, it's like impossible to check all of them. And this is actually, I think, the biggest challenge right now. Actually, I've heard a joke that right now all the candidates, basically there are two groups of candidates. First group of candidates know how to apply for the position, how to pass the interview, but they don't know how to work. And the second group know how to work, but they kind of completely missing skills for of how to apply for position and how to pass all the interviews. So this is I think basically right now the kind of the skills, how to pass interview, how to get your CV reviewed. It's like completely new skills that we all have to build, and this is kind of transforming the industry a lot, I would say.
And if I think about the way hiring's done, I feel like the traditional process is not that closely correlated at all with predicting job performance. And as you say, like the act of sitting there and writing a CV, which for a data scientist is probably a little bit hard. Like they're not a marketer, they're not a salesperson. They probably don't, design the perfect looking CV to get past someone who's for whatever reason looking for that. And then there's often a lot of, I find like quite sort of gut feel based interviews that focused on finding the best candidate. And so, yeah, I could see how a lot of the process is biased towards certain type of people that aren't necessarily the best candidates at all. Like there's all this research around the most extroverted, tall, handsome people are going to perform best in interview. And I guess that's just being magnified right now, I suppose.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely agree with you. Actually, yeah, I had experience couple of times when basically the candidate was so nice in terms of communication skills, understanding the industry, like everything was good, like best team fit and so on and so forth. But then it's difficult to predict the kind of performance of the candidate, how actually the candidate is going to kind of solve the problem, manage the project, and so on and so forth. This is sometimes it's difficult to ask the right questions to identify those issues. It's still kind of a little bit of gut feelings or like your intuition. It's kind of understand. If you have some kind of feelings, some concerns, it's definitely something that's worth to double check. Try to ask more questions. Try to ask more, for more cases, more examples. Maybe even ask for the contacts of people who can reference this candidate, who can answer this question. But still, there is like no certainty. It's still kind of guessing that candidates should be good or not for because again, as I said in the previous my answer for the previous question was that there are people who kind of mastered skills of passing interview, and yeah, definitely we have more challenges in terms of it right now.
And so you mentioned also just a skyrocketing number of applications, partly because of, I guess, increased unemployment in the sector, lots of layoffs, as you mentioned. But is there something else behind the scenes as well? Like, is there some technology candidates are using to apply more than they were previously?
Actually, it's really good question, and I've seen examples of the, let's say, scripts or like tools that allows people to kind of search for position with certain keywords, quickly and easily apply for those positions, and also adjust CV or cover letter depends on like based on the job description, which is kind of, on the one hand, it's good for the candidates. They can like can apply for more position, but being on the hiring manager side is definitely more challenging. First of all, it's of course increased number of applications, and all of them are kind of good. Let's say it's kind of matched with the job description and everything that you are looking for, but it kind of raised the number of questions. How everything that described in the person CV, how actually it matched with the real experience of this person, or it's just kind of matching exercise, like words in my CV matching with words in job description. So it's kind of it's adding more candidates to the pipeline, and kind of make the work of recruiters and hiring managers even worse.
Yeah, it's going to have to take a rethink from a lot of people in hiring, because previously, like, number of applicants, oh look, we've driven 1,000 applicants to apply for your role, it was a metric they were optimizing for probably. But now it's clear how much of a vanity metric that is. If, I don't know, half the applications are ChatGPT generated in some way, and then you can't really believe the CV because it's not a true representation of the candidate even. There's going to have to be a bit of a rethink in terms of like what actually matters in the hiring process, I guess.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. It's a new challenge that we haven't seen before.
And I've seen like a lot of statistics in the past talking about, I don't know, 70% of candidates lie on their CV at some level. So this has always been a problem. But I wonder now if the difference is that they can lie at scale because they get ChatGPT, let's say, to write their CV for them, lie or exaggerate, but also maybe as a person, if you now disassociate from that process, like you're not consciously writing a CV and knowing you're adding a lie to it, you're getting an LLM to make the perfect CV for a job. And so, in a sense, you've almost unburdened yourself. Like there's not a moral quandary anymore because there's no, well, that's what ChatGPT wrote. It's not, I didn't write that. Do you get that sense so far from the candidates?
Um, to me, actually, I have a little bit different perspective on that one, because CV it's the first step to get, let's say, access to hiring manager and to recruiter. So, but then usually I have kind of the structure set of questions that I always ask, and basically my impression, if I want to move forward with specific candidate, it's based on the answer to those questions. My impressions after interview. CV is good to have, but finally I wouldn't make any decisions based on CV. Like only decision to kind of to okay, let's have a chat with this candidate. But based on again, like as I said before, with this number of perfect applications, number of perfect CVs, the enter of the funnel right now is kind of, there are really huge amounts of people, huge number of people.
Well, that's right. The way you frame it, then actually, that's another now vanity metric, like CV quality match score or whatever, is meaningless if it's been bullshitted by ChatGPT.
No, actually, I think it's actually a really tricky question how we should filter the candidates basically how we can prepare this short list of the candidates, Because to me, on the one hand, yes, there is ChatGPT that allows you to kind of perfectly match your CV with job description. But on the other hand, we have kind of not really clear algorithms on ATS side. So basically, sometimes like in being candidate, sometimes I have no idea why I was automatically rejected. So yeah, those filters are not clear, and basically the answer to those filters is like perfectly matching CVs. So I don't know, like, is it good or bad? Maybe like something should happen as an answer to this ChatGPT application. Something should be improved on ATS side. So maybe there shouldn't be, let's say, like from my perspective, there shouldn't be automatic rejection of everybody, but there should be some score how the person match with my job description, or maybe like some extra information, and then I, like as a hiring manager or like recruiter, we should decide: do we want to have a conversation with like candidate or not? It shouldn't be like, let's say, automatic rejection. Otherwise, it will be never-ending fight between like algorithms on one side and algorithms on the other side.
Yes, yes, exactly. And it's really interesting from a lot of the companies I've spoken to recently, at least 5 or 6 have been creating their own tools internally to use either ChatGPT or Claude to do CV screening. So there's like all these skunk works developing in businesses and a demand for that product. And inevitably, if candidates are applying en masse and there's just too many CVs to deal with, that screening step has to be automated. And so I'm sure they will end up using a similar large language model to what the candidate has used to create the application in the first place. But to your point before around the kind of transparency and the feedback, at least if companies were now screening CVs with AI or any automated tool, then that gives you the opportunity to say, well, here's how we got this score for this CV. We gave it a score of 70. Here's the reasons why it got 70 versus this other CV. In theory, that information could be shared with the candidate, which would be a drastic improvement on the current situation, which is a human reading a CV for 6 seconds, pressing reject, and as you say, you've got no clue why you were rejected, and you're left sort of frustrated in your job search.
Yes. I think it's you mentioned really good points, because like I think the main complaints that candidates writing on LinkedIn or whatever site, it's like lack of feedback after rejection, or like personally, I don't think feedback is the ultimate goal. To receive feedback, it's the ultimate goal of kind of every application, but because like there might be situation that you are not good fit for specific position, it doesn't mean that something wrong with you. But if you if you get like, I don't know, 10 pieces of feedback with the same kind of the same thing mentioned, probably it's something to think about and maybe to improve, like, or to change in your approach to application, or maybe some to change something in your CV. But anyway, like having this even automatically generated feedback and sending candidate not like the standard answer like, hey, you're a great candidate, but we find someone who is like better fit. I think it would be really helpful, and it's probably it would add a little bit of, let's say, kind of personal more personalization, let's say, to the hiring process. So you didn't get rejected with feedback that doesn't, like, answer that doesn't make any sense. You get at least something. So like we even like we read your CV, even like our LLM reads your CV, but this is the score. This is the points that you that are not in match with our expectations or something like that.
Yes. And I think that's a really good point that it's very easy to go, oh, technology is dehumanizing. And that's really the problem. If anything, the opposite is true here, where the current process, which until, let's say, the last year has been 100% human based and manual and dreadful, where most people don't get feedback even after interviews. Now we have an opportunity to use technology, as you say, to make it more personalized, because we can do it at scale. It's almost costless if you've already made the determination on the CV or the interview answers or whatever. And so I feel like if companies are open to it, they can do this. What I wonder is if they will be willing to do it, whether initially they'll be like, well, we'll keep the score logic to ourselves because we don't quite trust it. And we'll just keep telling the candidate no, but we won't explain why. I wonder if there'll be this initial period of hesitation or something like that.
Uh, yes, I think besides of investments and besides of willingness to kind of to build those let's say scoring algorithms, there might be some legal issues or something like that. So yeah, if you reject that person in kind of let's say automatic way, there might be some consequences depending on the country country of application or something. I don't know, but it's a little bit of scary thing.
Yeah, for sure. And there are markets I know in New York has automated employment decision tool rules where you are not allowed to use a tool automatically to make any hiring decision unless you previously explained on your website in the hiring process exactly what it is, why you're using it, and show like audit results to show that it's not biased against any subgroup of people, which is good. Like that's, I guess, responsible AI. Um, yeah, hopefully once we get past that hurdle and then maybe the technology problem, I could see how an AI hallucinating could give a very bad bit of feedback to a candidate, but a company might be freaking out about from a kind of brand reputation as well.
Yes, yes, yes. So yeah, there should be some investments, and like I think it's not all the companies are ready to invest in this kind of completely new wall, completely new approach of hiring.
Um, Speaking of the approach to hiring, what has your hiring process been to date? And then another question would be maybe like if you fast forward into maybe a year into the future, we imagine how AI is developing. How do you imagine your hiring process will be different in a year compared to, let's say, last year?
My hiring process, I think it's pretty standard or like pretty common. So basically, everything starts from a job description, and actually, I kind of want to emphasize that this is the one of the crucial steps of the whole interview preparation. And basically, I got experience working with different recruiters, and now I know the difference. How like professional recruiter can support you with job description. How great job description is different than, let's say, normal job description. It's not just task that you're going to perform, it's something else. Then after job description, of course, there should be initial screening with the recruiters. Sometimes, depending on my availability, sometimes I'm also involved in this kind of initial filtering or like initial screening. Sometimes it's completely up to recruiter to decide to run this first step. Then interview with me, with hiring manager. Then they usually interview with stakeholders and the team, depending on position. And finally, they might be, for some positions, they might be interview with one of the C-level or like founders of the company. So, I mean, like it's pretty standard. It's kind of worked so far, but I think the last challenge that we had like last year with 1,500 candidates in our pipeline, like 1,500 applicants. I think what definitely should be changed in the future is how to deal with this enormous number of how to change this initial screening process. Especially in the cases when it's difficult to, let's say, to explain to recruiter what exactly you are looking for. Okay, it might be like if like the responsibility of the person, like expected responsibility of the person, kind of let's say pretty standard. We're talking about like data analysts or something like that. Then you can kind of mention skills and experience that you're looking for. But sometimes it's difficult to explain, like how to explain the difference between data analyst and analytics engineer. If like person actually works on analytics engineering task, but had I don't know, data analyst in the job title. how to explain this to recruiter, how to make this initial screening actually working. So yeah, this is something that we need to figure out.
Yeah, and I think you've just touched on, or at least what I view as one of the other big fundamental flaws with the way that hiring has been done until now, which is you would have a team of, let's call them hiring professionals, talent acquisition, HR, recruiters, who are hiring for jobs that they have no experience in themselves. And I feel like we're asking them to do something that's basically impossible. Like if I went to try to hire a lawyer, I would have no fucking clue what I'm doing. I look at a bunch of CVs of like a commercial lawyer, a barrister, a conveyancing lawyer. I don't know the difference. And so for us to expect recruiters to know the subtle difference, as you mentioned, between a data analyst who's done some data or analytics engineer does some data analysis, a data scientist versus a data engineer, like these things that almost look crossover even for us. For them, it's like, what the hell is the difference? And so I hear a lot of feedback from hiring managers who would often have their talent team doing that initial CV screen. But then once they check in on it and see the CVs they've missed or the CVs they've passed through, there's like this kind of constant feedback loop to almost like train the model to be more accurate. And surely an AI system could do a better job, I feel, than that.
Yes, because I think like yeah, I think it's a perfect example of training the model because the everything that I can explain that there should be a certain list of skills or tools that person used to kind of to meet the expectation, meet my expectation. But again, like if a data engineer works with SQL and Python and data analyst works with SQL in Python, and both of them have like strange job titles, like I don't know, kind of decision making engineer or like whatever, then in that case it's impossible for a recruiter to understand. There should be other indication that okay, this person is more on the engineering side, this person is more on the analytics side. But yeah, I mean, like it's probably not the most efficient way to train the model. I mean, like mention everything, like give recruiters all the examples. Probably it's not the kind of most efficient way. And another thing that probably also could be automated somehow with help of AI is like if you have some open questions after reading CV of the candidate. Exactly, like you don't understand like if it's how technical the person is. Maybe before kind of scheduling 30 minutes interview, it's better to ask a couple of questions. Hey, this position is like pretty technical. How comfortable you working on development stuff? Maybe there we can automate this process, and maybe like AI can help us to ask right questions before investing like really expensive time of recruiters and hiring managers.
Yeah, what absolutely what I'm seeing emerge now is we're talking about this explosion in applications, partly driven by the macro factors, partly driven by probably AI driving the marginal cost of applying down to almost zero. And then what a lot of companies are saying to me is, well, it seems as though each candidate seems a bit less engaged than normal. Like if you were to get a CV and then reach back out for an interview, like the drop off rate at that point seems higher, which is kind of surprising. But I think it's because now if the effort to apply is zero and you can apply to 100 jobs, your engagement in each job is now 1/100th of what it used to be, or something like that. So then there's going to have to be this secondary screening layer after the CV screen for sure, because if all these CVs are made from AI, they've been automatically optimized for the job ad, and the candidates aren't that engaged, like who's actually going to be turning up for that first interview and what are their skills going to be? I feel like there's going to have to be some layer in between. What do you reckon?
Actually, I agree with you, but I think it's a really tough thing to implement because uh, from the company side, of course, the more things you can automate, the more kind of your kind of, let's say, filtering algorithms, how well your filtering algorithms works, the kind of the less investment in the hiring process you're going to do. But on the candidate side, there's also it can be a little bit different. So basically, I know zero about the company, about the role, except job description, which probably in some cases not 100% true. And company already asked me to invest time in like case study or like whatever. So they should be really, really kind of we should act really carefully in terms of what questions we are going to ask, how much time it's going to take to answer them. And probably another thing to think about this step is how easy it would be to answer those questions using ChatGPT again.
Yes. You reminded me actually of a great company in your market in Berlin, Get Your Guide, who we've worked with in the past. And what I was struck by from them is their approach to being really transparent with candidates upfront. So for a typical company, you'd have, as you say, a job description, which gives you a snapshot. But the worst ones are like nothing more than a laundry list of tools and responsibilities. The best ones, like some of the ones that you were mentioning before, maybe are more insightful, but it's still just a JD. What Get Your Guide were great at was upfront as a candidate, you would get information about the share appreciation rights and how much they'd be worth, like a day in the life of this role. LinkedIn links to who your colleagues would be, what KPIs your team is optimized towards, what product you work on, and like a lot of information up front, which I then noticed that it de-risked it for candidates a lot because it basically covered off all the questions they would normally ask in that first interview. And then it gave them an incentive to go through whatever the first gate was. So I think if companies can find a way to be more efficient with just disseminating the information to candidates, then they should get like an improved kind of flow through of the candidates.
Actually, I completely agree with you, and even more, I can say that I had interview with Get Your Guides like a few years ago, and I was so impressed how prepared the recruiter was. It was like the presentation with, okay, this is the data team, this is the place of the data team in tech organization, this is the place of tech organization in the whole company, this is your links to profile to your like potential future colleagues. This is the grades, this is the salary ranges, basically everything. So instead of wasting time, like, hey, can you give me any idea like what data team is working on? They were already prepared with all the kind of slides that are needed. And being candidate at that time, I was like really impressed. And I think like another great outcome from this, like, let's say, high level overview, that you clearly understand what the position you applied for is about. So you can even understand the, let's say, the expected level of maturity from this person. Okay, you see that this like position is, let's say, I don't know, the entry level management grade, and there are like, I don't know, 10 steps to director VP position. You have an idea that this is position, like, is it something that you're looking for, or maybe it's something that's that doesn't completely fit your your needs and like your goals. So yeah, I think like it's great example, and I would really happy seeing more examples like Get Your Guides actually did and doing.
I agree completely. And a shout out to Stephen Rose, a recruiter from Get Your Guide, at least back when I was dealing with them, who, did a great job in compiling that information and really putting it forward to the candidates. I suspect most companies don't do this for the simple fact that they're not that well prepared. It is a lot of work up front. like to put all that together, to really think about who we're hiring, why, what the team is, like preparing the almost like marketing documents. It is a lot of effort, but it's a sort of thing that surely must pay off pretty quickly, because you'd be cutting out so many questions that candidates have. I know this myself, because after we saw how Get Your Guy did this, we basically tried to do the same with our hiring. And so we'd get candidates into the first interview and they'd be like, we don't have any questions because you've already answered all of them up front. And so it just saves a lot of time and helps motivate the candidate to continue through the process, I think.
Yes, but you mentioned one important thing. Companies should know what exactly they are looking for. And this is the question that sometimes has no answer, especially in the beginning of hiring process, because like sometimes requirements can evolve like, during the hiring process, like seeing different candidates and so on and so forth. So yeah, in case of Get Your Guide, the preparation to have this approach was enormous.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, changing gears a little bit. If you think back to all the candidates that you've interviewed over the years for different roles, have you seen recurring patterns that would separate the successful candidates from the unsuccessful candidates?
Yes, I think there are different things that kind of differentiate successful candidates and unsuccessful candidates. To me, I think the most important one is to understand what you want as a candidate, and to be able to kind of to describe it in your CV. So basically, the first thing that I want to see in CV is the clear career path in the candidates work history. So basically, if I see like switching from one types of role to another types of role, switching like from senior level person to, let's say, level, from senior level position to junior level position, actually I have questions. Why it's happened? What's the reason to kind of I don't know, switching from let's say software developer role to a product manager role, and then back to, I don't know, data analyst role. So it's okay to have it let's say over the first few years of career, but then like they should be for me as a hiring manager, there shouldn't be the question why person switched from one role to another one after like reading CV. If I see like the consistent path, consistent growth of the candidate, I have basically no questions. And with the current markets, I think the people with this unclear career path in their CV have less, let's say, chances to get into interview process than people with like clear growth and clear kind of expected career path. I think is the second thing, like basically you have to be able to explain, to describe your career path and to explain what are your goals during the interview. Candidates who doesn't understand what the perfect role should look like, what the responsibilities should look like, what should be what responsibilities they want to have in, like, let's say 5 years, right? What I don't know, job title they want to have in 5 years, and so on and so forth. Sometimes it's difficult. It's kind of, to me, it's maybe not like red flag, but still kind of reddish flag. Yeah, because to me it's kind of the indication that potentially I'm going to have the kind of issues with this person in the future, in terms of career growth, in terms of what I'm going to do, what should be the next role for me, and so on and so forth. So my kind of personal feeling and like my personal opinion that finally this career path and like growth is responsibility of the person, not the manager. Manager can support, can like give like share the knowledge, give all the resources, and so on and so forth. Like give opportunities to kind of to have a practice, kind of gaining some certain skills. But it shouldn't be like, okay, I want to grow, and what options you can offer. Definitely, and I think it's one of the biggest differentiators between successful candidates, successful people with, like, if you compare them with unsuccessful candidates.
And I would have thought, thinking about it now, that this must carry over to the rest of their life. Like it's not just a problem in what job they want. Maybe it's indicative of a lack of conscious, deliberate action of what they want to do. And it's just the job is just part of the overall problem. If you see what I mean? Maybe.
Yeah, didn't check. We didn't run experiments. Didn't run any research on that one.
Well, it's funny because the way I heard you describing it, it sounds very similar to a lot of people's complaints about dating, like going on a date and getting a very vague sense of what the other person's about and where they're going. And it's a similar kind of problem as you give off negative vibes about how, how focused you are in life, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like as I said, it's maybe this kind of behavior. It's probably okay if you are like in the early steps of your career. You want to explore like what opportunities are there and so on and so forth. But then like when I interview in like senior level, like a person with like, let's say 5, 7, 8 like years of experience, I assume this person should understand what exactly should be the next, like, is it like management track? Is it like expert track? If expert track, what exactly should be the area of interest for this person, so on and so forth.
All right. What about hiring fails? Like either yourself as a hiring manager or, a team you've been in or a company you've been in. Have you ever seen a particularly bad hiring fail? And if so, what was it?
It's actually a really interesting question. There are some examples when I failed as a hiring manager. There are some examples when, from my perspective, company failed when I was the candidate. If you talk about myself as a hiring manager, I think the biggest fail is. Is when I assume that if person is good in certain like areas. I mean, like hiring for data analysts, I see the person is a really good data analyst, like with every technical skills needed, with like business understanding, with like everything. In that case, it's easy to assume that person is good at kind of other areas that also could be important for the job. I mean, like for data analysts, sometimes project management skills are needed. If you work on kind of long research and you know that other teams are involved, I don't know, like third parties are involved, you need something like you are dependent on, I don't know, like technical team, marketing team, whatever team. In that case, those project management skills are crucial. Otherwise, it's difficult to expect the results, the research to be successful. And it's kind of something that usually you don't check during the interview, because like you hiring data analysts, why should look at why I should check project management skills? But sometimes it's like really necessary, and you really should think about. Like I failed a couple of times with those kind of not really must skills, but like really nice to have skills, which finally ended up with kind of not really pleasant experience working with those candidates. And from the let's say being candidate, the kind of the worst experience that I had was when company how to say basically there are two kind of, let's say, patterns that company with a really cumbersome hiring processes follow. So basically, sometimes there are companies that think that, let's say, they are Google or like they are Netflix, and they built all the hiring process assuming that candidates should have same level of excitement kind of being interviewed by a small startup is like excitement should be like being interviewed by Google. I'm not saying that Google is much better than small startups or like small startups much better than Google. It's like depends on the preference of the candidates, but there still should be sometimes company missing this, let's say, selling process. So they should. Sometimes it's worth to sell your position and explain why it's your position are really great and like brings tons of opportunities to the table. And another pattern that I kind of maybe kind of similar to this one is like okay, candidate applied for our position. Let's ask him or her to pass few hours test or like case study or something else as a first step of interview process. So candidate has no idea. Candidate has no idea about the like no details about the position, the expectations, like challenges, and so on and so forth. So basically, nothing besides of job description, but there is the company ask for investing like multiple hours on, let's say, psychological tests, which could be good, let's say, good addition to candidate profile, but definitely it shouldn't be the first step of the interview. And actually, I think those companies are missing a lot of perfect candidates because why? Why should invest time?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it speaks back again to the transparency. Perhaps if those companies packaged together all that information and gave it to candidates immediately and had already front loaded the process so much that it answered all the questions, maybe the candidate would do a 5 hour take home. I think it's still a bit much as a first step. Um, but I feel like some of this is within the company's hands to improve those conversion rates.
Exactly. Especially when we talk about not, let's say, junior level position. With junior level position, of course, like with any ideas how to filter out all the candidates who are not really want to work for your company or like not really excited. I think it makes sense. But if you talk about like, let's say, a senior level position, there are not so many candidates, not so many perfect candidates. And in that case, it's again like you're not only uh, not only candidates want to sell themselves to the company, but also company should be able to sell the position in the company to the candidate.
Do you have any particularly memorable experiences as a candidate trying to get a job, either very good or very bad? I guess you already touched on your experience with Get Your Guide and having a positive one there. Do any others spring to mind?
Actually, I think to me besides of this amazing get your right example, I think for me the most memorable interview processes were when I had this opportunity to talk to, let's say, founders or like uh, people who really build the culture of the company. So usually it's founders because at that point you can clearly understand what to expect in terms of because like the perspective of the founders sometimes a little bit different than perspective like opinion of the I don't know, your stakeholders or like team members or something like that. So yeah, when you talk to founders, there are some like really new perspective from work. For example, in my current company, when I had an interview with one of the co-founders, he told me that okay, like what's the reason to work for a health tech company? What is the most exciting thing besides of like you're like solving really important health health-related problems of the people and make their life better. One of the kind of really not so obvious thing is that you don't need to build the market. You don't need to build demand, because demand is there. So this is something that you probably don't hear from your stakeholders or like engineers. Yeah, so it's like really kind of shows what founders of the company are looking for, what are the perspective, what are the plans. So like, yeah, really great experience having interview with founders.
Do you have any tips for how companies could make hiring a bit more objective and a bit fairer?
Uh, it's actually a really good question, because like besides the things that we already discussed, like uh, transparency with the process, transparency with the expectations, transparency with the I don't know, job description. I think the another great thing that we already mentioned is the feedback. It's also should be really helpful. And maybe the last thing, it's like being really conscious when you think about job description. So because like a traditional approach, when you say like you will be working on reports, for that you need to have experience with Tableau or like Power BI or like whatever BI tool. I think it doesn't add any kind of any additional information or like any clue. It doesn't give any clue to the candidates like about like the position and the work itself. It's just, I don't know, the set of let's say tools and responsibilities, but it doesn't answer the question why I should work for this company. It doesn't answer the question why are my kind of opportunities in this company. What's how can I grow with this company? What can I achieve with this company? It's actually I think it's one of the most important and one of the most beneficial thing that many companies are missing. Many hiring managers are missing.
Yeah, that ability to sell and explain the role in enough detail that's going to attract the candidate.
It's not only about selling, it's also about kind of setting expectations. So maybe if like uh, I don't know, like data analyst, let's pick through like uh, example of data analyst. Maybe sometimes people want to have, let's say, 9 to 5 job and like building tons of reports, and this is exactly the work that they are looking for. But there might be people who kind of think that reports is just a tool. I want to work on, let's say, really complex business problems with like, I want to be able to measure like business outcomes. It should be every time it should be research. I want to feel like I'm a real scientist. And if you for both positions, you can like describe, okay, you need to have like Python, SQL, BI tool skills, and it doesn't say anything extra. And in that case, basically both candidates who wants to just develop reports and wants to work on like interesting researches, both of them will apply, and then like it's up to you, and like it's your kind of problem to figure out what exactly the person is looking for. So yeah, I think like being conscious with job description, it's kind of giving you opportunity to kind of to find the best applicants.
Do you have a hiring hero? Anyone that you felt like you've learned a lot about hiring from?
Actually, I wouldn't mention any specific person. I think it's there were many people uh, who kind of showed like different examples of how to build really good hiring process. And I'm talking not only about the let's say my colleagues, recruiters, or like hiring managers. I'm also talking about interviewers being the candidate. I think we mentioned a couple of times this get your gut example. I think to me, it's right now it's the example of transparency, example how you should be prepared for the interview. Another thing that I mentioned a couple of times is job description. It's not my idea that job description should be perfect. There was a recruiter in our current company who basically kind of gave me this perspective. Here's your job description. Here's my job description. I just rephrased a couple of things. What do you think about the difference? And what is most attractive? And to me, it was like eye opener that this is actually how job description should look like. I'm like, if I were a candidate, I would immediately apply to to my position. After this, like changing the wording and description. And another thing, also being like working with many great people, I also understood that. And actually, I'm kind of I have the same right now. I have the same opinion that hiring process for the hiring manager is not something that's you can do as a, let's say, side hustle or something like that. It's like almost full-time job. So if you want to hire the best candidates, be ready to like really invest your time and focus in it. Otherwise, like I think there is opinion that okay, there are recruiters and they have to find the best candidate for me. But finally, you're hiring manager and you know the best how the profile of the perfect candidate should look like. So it's impossible to kind of delegate all the kind of responsibilities to recruiters or like to the team or like to even to recruitment agency. Like they must be investments from your side.